At its peak, BlackBerry was not just a phone company. It was the phone company for people who ran things. Presidents carried it. CEOs refused to put it down. Investment bankers slept with it on the nightstand. In 2009, Research in Motion held roughly 50% of the United States smartphone market. The BlackBerry was infrastructure, a security-cleared, always-on nerve center for the professional world. By 2016, that market share had fallen below 1%. The company that once defined mobile productivity was shipping fewer than 1 million devices a quarter in a market shipping hundreds of millions. By 2022, the original BlackBerry operating system was formally shut down, and the devices stopped functioning. An empire that took 15 years to build was functionally erased in less than a decade. The story of BlackBerry is not simply the story of a company that missed a trend. It is the story of a company that correctly identified its own market, built a genuinely superior product for that market, and then watched the market change around it, while its own success made change feel unnecessary. Research in Motion was founded in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada in 1984 by Mike Lazaridis and Jim Balsillie, though the two CEO structure that would later define the company's culture came together in the 1990s. Lazaridis was the engineer, Balsillie was the dealmaker. The early company worked on wireless data technology before wireless data technology had a clear commercial form. The original BlackBerry device launched in 1999 as a two-way pager. What made it different was push email. Rather than requiring a user to open an application and request messages, the BlackBerry delivered email directly to the device the moment it arrived on the server. For corporate professionals spending hours away from their desks, this was a fundamental shift in how work moved. The product spread through enterprises and government agencies first, exactly as designed. RIM built its network infrastructure, called the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, directly into corporate IT departments. This created a deeply embedded sales channel. The decision to use BlackBerry was made by IT procurement and security officers, not individual consumers. Once a company deployed BES, switching carried real cost and real risk. RIM had built a moat, and it was structural. The physical keyboard was not an accident or a limitation. It was a deliberate engineering choice for a user who needed to compose real messages at speed. Executives writing memos on planes, lawyers responding between depositions, traders sending orders from trading floors. The BlackBerry served a specific, high-value user with precision, and that user told everyone else to get one. By the mid-2000s, the device had earned its nickname, Crackberry. The dependency was real and reported widely in business press at the time. RIM's subscriber base grew from roughly 3 million in 2004 to over 25 million by 2008. Revenue climbed from under $600 million in fiscal 2004 to over $11 billion by fiscal 2011. The stock reached an all-time high in mid-2008, valuing the company at roughly 80 billion Canadian dollars. The hidden crack was already forming by then. In January 2007, Steve Jobs stood on a stage in San Francisco and introduced the iPhone. The reaction inside RIM, according to multiple accounts reported by credible journalists and authors covering the company, was that the device would not work. A touchscreen keyboard was seen as inferior to physical keys for serious users. Battery life was a concern. Security on a consumer platform was not enterprise-grade. These were not irrational observations. They were correct for the existing BlackBerry customer. The problem was that the iPhone was not aimed at the existing BlackBerry customer. It was aimed at everyone else. And as the iPhone's installed base grew, and as third-party applications multiplied on Apple's App Store, launched in 2008, something shifted in enterprise procurement. Executives began arriving at IT departments asking for iPhone support. Consumer preference began overriding corporate standardization. The moat that had protected RIM, the embedded enterprise channel, began to erode from the top of the org chart down. Android compounded the pressure. Where the iPhone was a single premium device, Android gave manufacturers across price points the ability to offer capable smartphones. The addressable market for smartphones expanded faster than RIM had modeled, and RIM was competing for a shrinking share of a category that was simultaneously being redefined. RIM's response over the critical 2008 to 2012 window involved several directions at once. The company launched touchscreen BlackBerry models, including the Storm, in 2008, which received poor reviews and generated significant customer complaints. It attempted to develop a new operating system architecture through the acquisition of QNX software systems in 2010 for approximately $200 million. It launched the BlackBerry PlayBook tablet in 2011, which shipped without a native email client and required pairing with a BlackBerry handset for core functions. That product was widely criticized and resulted in an inventory write-down of approximately $485 million. Each of these moves consumed resources, engineering focus, and time. None of them produced a product that recaptured momentum. Meanwhile, the company continued to invest heavily in the enterprise infrastructure business, the BES server and the secure network, which remained genuinely valuable but represented a narrowing base. The leadership structure itself created friction. Two co-CEOs with different orientations toward technology and sales had served the company well during expansion. Under existential competitive pressure, decision-making required speed and a unified direction. Balsillie and Lazaridis stepped down together in January 2012. Thorsten Heinz became CEO. BlackBerry 10, the operating system built on the QNX foundation and intended as the company's full platform reset, launched in January 2013 after repeated delays. The reviews were largely positive on the technical architecture. The problem was the application ecosystem. Developers had spent 4 years building for iOS and Android. BlackBerry 10 launched with a fraction of the apps that consumers and increasingly enterprise users expected. A mobile platform without applications is not a mobile platform. It is a prototype. In August 2013, the company announced it was exploring strategic alternatives, including a possible sale. In September 2013, RIM announced a preliminary agreement with a consortium led by its largest shareholder, Fairfax Financial, to take the company private at approximately $9 per share, valuing it at roughly $4.7 billion. That deal fell apart. The company instead raised a $1 billion convertible debt financing from Fairfax and others and brought in John Chen as executive chairman and interim CEO in November 2013. Chen's strategy pivoted the company away from hardware and toward enterprise software and security. Handset manufacturing was eventually outsourced to partners and then discontinued for devices running BlackBerry's own operating system. The company licensed the BlackBerry brand to TCL Communication, a Chinese electronics manufacturer which produced Android-based BlackBerry-branded devices through 2020. Sales remained marginal. In January 2022, BlackBerry shut down services for devices running BlackBerry OS and BlackBerry 10. The phones stopped making calls. They stopped sending messages. The infrastructure that had made BlackBerry essential was switched off. The company that survived is a software business focused on cybersecurity and the Internet of Things. It retains the BlackBerry name and real technical capabilities in embedded security, including software used in automobiles and medical devices. It is a legitimate enterprise. It is not the empire. The mechanism of collapse is worth stating precisely. BlackBerry did not fail because it built a bad product. It built an excellent product for a specific, high-value user. It failed because the market boundary it depended on, the distinction between enterprise and consumer mobile, dissolved faster than its leadership believed possible. When that boundary dissolved, the competitive moat it had built inside the enterprise channel became a trap. The same embedded infrastructure that created switching costs for customers made it harder for RIM to pivot, because pivoting meant cannibalizing the installed base that was still generating revenue. The BlackBerry story is a precise example of what Christensen described as disruption from below, where a product enters at the consumer level, improves, and eventually meets enterprise requirements from the outside rather than from within. RIM watched this process and judged it too slow and too consumer-focused to matter. It was neither. Every empire looks permanent at the top. The cracks in this one began the moment a touchscreen appeared on a stage in San Francisco, and the company decided that its users would never accept it. They were right about their users. They were wrong about which users would define the next decade.